Our old friend Jill Stein is in the race to be the Green Party nominee, the Hillary Clinton of the Green Party, meaning when she declares, I'm assuming everybody else closes up shop. It looks like they are pulling out the big guns now with Cornel West having vacated the Green Party slot. Jill Stein has declared she is running for president. Now, she put out about a 3.5-minute video on Twitter running down her list of issues. I'm sure most of us in this space are pretty familiar with what those issues are by this point. So we decided to opt for a much more entertaining video for you all, which gets into the last few seconds of her video and then CNN's reaction that the creature has come back to haunt them yet again. So here's CNN reacting to the announcement that Jill Stein is running in 2024.
Both parties are a danger to our democracy. So forget the pundits and the attack dogs who tell you to ignore your misery and just keep voting for those who caused it in the first place. Change won't come from the ruling elites. It comes from we, the people.
Oh, this lady's like Jason from Friday the 13th.
Oh.
Just when you think she's gone away, she pops up again. I mean, as if she hasn't done enough harm in the past now, you know.
It's just funny how you juxtapose what's in her campaign ad, you know, Black Lives Matter, environmental justice, all these things that the reformed conservatives like Ana Navarro really try to preach and incorporate into their own messaging. And then you see that in a commercial and it cuts to, it's like she's like Jason in Friday the 13th. She just won't go away. Ana Navarro's father was a Contra, by the way.
Yeah.
So, you know,
say what you want about my father. My father knew how to take care of people like this.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
We need men like my father in this country.
Yeah, exactly. So here they are reacting to the announcement.
It's a multi-front problem for Biden. I mean, it's not just the Joe Manchins, it's not just the Jill Steins. There's Robert Kennedy Jr. I mean, there are a lot of people, and Dean Phillips. I mean,
I mean, you better mention Marianne Williamson because her people get very angry when she's not.
Dean Phillips is Steve
Lock
Schmidt
up your Dalmatians when this one's
Republican
around.
strategist way of trying to get money. He's polling at like 2%. I mean, he's really. But yes, I agree. There's
1%, 2%, 3%.
No, and these
states
are tight
are
margins.
Well, it's apples and oranges. I mean, apparently you don't have to know anything to be a pundit on CNN because they are conflating general election third-party candidates with Democratic primary candidates.
Right,
So like
right.
Marianne Williamson and Dean Phillips, their polling doesn't matter because they're not going to be on the ballot in November. But the point is still relevant that we are seeing now quite the field start to take shape. You have Biden, assumedly Trump, Cornel West, Robert Kennedy Jr., now Jill Stein. The Libertarians are going to pick somebody, as we'll get to in the next segment. So if you're watching the clipped version of this on YouTube, find this in another segment. Joe Manchin not seeking re-election to the Senate, which has really sparked rumors that he's going to run on the No Labels ticket. So you could have 7 candidates in this race.
Sounds like he is.
Sounds like he is.
Why are you going to go on a whistle-stop tour if you're not planning on running for president?
Exactly. So he probably is. So you're talking about 7 candidates. Yeah, a lot of competition for Joe Biden. You know why? Because he sucks. The world is a disaster on his watch, and he's falling apart at the seams. So it shouldn't be all that surprising to you that this is happening, but it is.
Well, for people like this, and this is why I can't watch corporate media anymore, even when we have to cover it, it's like a spike in my head, like election nights when I have to have that on.
Right.
And then they do their little takes. Oh my God, it's like just like a fucking creature boring into my brain. They represent a very privileged class for whom politics is gossip. It's just gossip. It doesn't affect them personally. It doesn't affect anyone they know. It's all about court intrigue. It's all about horse race. This sounds exactly like if you have the misfortune to get plopped next to people like this when you go to a cafe on the Upper West Side. Right. This is the depth of their politics. No, really. I mean, you can. If you live in New York, and anyone who might be thinking about moving here, let me dissuade you. You will very often find yourself stuck next to people like this at a restaurant. Oh, and did you see what Trump tweeted the other day? It's just, But these people get fucking paid millions of dollars to offer these absolutely worthless and frankly quite stupid, even on their own terms, opinions.
Yeah, no, without a doubt.
1,000 votes.
Yeah, and remember, we have an electoral college. It's not about the popular vote.
Oh, is that right?
Biden probably would win the popular vote, but it's about these little pockets of vote.
Latest polls do not show Joe Biden winning the nationwide popular vote. They show him losing. He's down in the Real Clear Politics average against Trump in the nationwide popular vote. So it's not just an electoral college problem. It's looking like he is primed to lose the popular vote as well.
In 6 states. Yeah, I mean, look, there's clearly an effort here. I mean, I don't think it's coordinated. I think that there's just, a lot of anxiety and uncertainty and people running for president. And look, the other thing is there's a perverse incentive structure for people running for president. If you look at the GOP debate stage, you could see that. Is Vivek going to be president? No. Does he want a podcast? Yes.
I don't think Dean Phillips is in this for the podcast. I don't think Jill Stein is in this for the podcast. Yeah, I really doubt that very
Jill
much.
Stein, look, she gave it a go with the folk album. It didn't work out. I don't think she's looking for a podcast. Yeah, the stupidity of that opinion because, okay, well, so there's a perverse incentive to politics. Right? Like you could say this about anybody who runs for anything. Right? I mean, there's a perverse incentive. You get your name out there, you get visible, maybe you get a publishing deal if you get popular enough. Like, what kind of an observation is that? What value does that observation have? And besides that, when I look at Vivek, I don't see a guy looking for a podcast. I see a guy auditioning for next time.
Right. Or vice president or whatever. But the other angle of
a cabinet position.
Yeah, cabinet position.
He's lining himself up for a career. It's not about a podcast. That guy is fucking. He's
rich.
He's
right?
rich. He's rich. He doesn't need a podcast. And if he wanted a podcast, he could set up a podcast tomorrow. He'd have a marketing budget. He'd be fine. Like, he doesn't need this shit to have a podcast.
Everybody wants to be us all of a sudden. Everybody's angling for podcasts.
Be the anti-woke Indian guy. He would do fine. He could just hang out his shingle tomorrow. He'd have a lot more subscribers than we do.
There's nobody. Everybody's angling to start a YouTube channel, which you could start for free and get a podcast feed going for free. And they have to
see how much fun we have.
That. Yeah, exactly. They see how much fun it is. They see how easy a gig it is. There's a perverse incentive. Plus, I just find it hilarious.
You get to yell at Rachel Maddow. Where do I sign?
Yeah, where do I sign up? Right, exactly. I find it funny too that these are the people who take threats to democracy very seriously. But beware the perverse incentives of running for office against the person who we want to win.
It's almost like some people who run for office might have corrupt motives.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. New one.
Anna, you mentioned that people should be concerned about these candidates potentially, basically unwittingly electing Trump, but it seems like that argument is not good enough. That they should fear Trump and so therefore vote for Joe Biden. Otherwise, we would see Biden performing better in some of these polls.
Yeah, it's another brilliant point. Like I said, apparently you don't have to know anything to be an anchor on CNN or to be a pundit on CNN. If Biden were a better president, more people would say they're voting for him. Wow.
I mean, mind blown.
Yeah.
Wow. If people liked him, he would be doing better.
That's the kind of genius you can't learn. You have to be born with it. It's got to be innate. Some things can't be learned.
And she's quarterbacking it.
Yeah, and she's quarterbacking it.
These polls, I think, need to be taken with a grain of salt because we look at the polls and he's supposed to be such a drag on the ticket and he's supposed to be in so much trouble. And then Democrats have this great night. Yeah. So, yes.
The subtlety and the straw manning that you see a lot of political actors engage in is something that you really get to pick up on more. Like, I feel like I'm much better at picking up on that now that I do content creation myself.
Absolutely.
Because I know how I prepare segments, and so I can spot this very, very subtle propaganda coming from them. They're saying Biden's a drag on the ticket, yet people do well down ballot. That's not what drag on the ticket means. That's not what a drag on the ticket means. Drag on the ticket means that down ballot candidates are drags on the presidential ticket. No, nobody's saying Biden's a drag on Andy Beshear in Kentucky. No. People aren't
no,
saying
that. I mean, that's not true. That is the theory, that if a president is deeply unpopular because it's going to suppress turnout of Democrats or it's going to make them
but
more
in this
Republican
case, that's not
inclined.
the dynamic. It's the opposite dynamic. It's actually the dynamic that the party is more popular than Joe Biden.
In this particular case.
And because Joe Biden hasn't been on the ticket in these elections, which is what she's saying,
Right.
if you look at these elections, the Democrats have been doing well, even though Biden's a drag on the ticket. Well, Biden's not on the ballot in these elections. He's not on the ballot in the midterms.
Well, and also these people, because it doesn't fit the narrative that their brain dead viewers like, would never state the obvious. Supreme Court didn't decide the Roe decision that way. We're living in a different world.
Well, that's what I mean.
You'd have red as far as the eye could see.
Well, right. And that's what I mean. Like, these decisions don't have anything to do with Joe Biden.
Joe Biden, exactly.
Right.
And that's right. They'll never get into that.
And with Joe Biden on the ticket in November, he's likely not to be a drag on down-ballot Democrats. We've said, I mean, you have predicted a split decision where Biden loses, but Democrats keep at least one of the two chambers.
Right.
And I think that's right. So I'm not saying he's a drag on the ticket. I don't hear people saying Democrats are doomed down ballot because of Joe Biden. The midterms obviously prove that that's not the dynamic at play here. So she's saying, well, if the Democrats are doing well in these elections, that means Joe Biden is poised to win.
Exactly, which is very stupid.
That's wrong, because the claim right now is not that he's a drag on the down ballot ticket. It's not to say that no president has ever been a drag on down ballot tickets, but because of the Roe decision, that's obviously not the case now, and no serious person is saying that right now. What we're saying is that Joe Biden can't win because he is uniquely unfit to win a second term. Generic Democrats, nameless Democrats, are actually beating Trump in the polls by about the same margins that Biden is losing to him by. That's how unpopular Joe Biden is. That's why you have people running against him, right? That's why you have people running against him. And this segment is about why are 6 people challenging Joe Biden who aren't Donald Trump.
The reason you have so many people getting in, and this is a side of it we don't usually cover, people hate both of them.
Right.
Like, Trump is really only marginally polls better in terms of people liking him than Joe Biden does. One of the reasons he's probably doing so much better than Biden is that he's not in office.
Right.
He's benefiting from the reaction against the person who happens to be in office.
Right.
If he were the one in office and people were experiencing what they're experiencing now, Joe Biden might be the one with the slight advantage in popularity. But people hate both of them. So, of course, I mean, it's a perfect stew for independent and third-party runs.
Yes, especially now since you're likely to have 2 failed presidents going head-to-head. Right. The uniquely fruitful ground for third parties, because the third party can say, you've literally elected both of these guys before, and look where we are now.
Right. Nobody likes either one of them.
Exactly.
I think voters right now are grumpy. And wouldn't you be grumpy if you've been looking on TV at people in the Middle East killing each other for a month? If you just, feel the malaise that's going around, of course voters are grumpy.
Makes me grumpy.
But
makes me really grumpy seeing a baby with its head blown to pieces. That's the first word that comes to mind. This makes me really grumpy. It just puts me in a sour mood for the next hour. Then I realized I was out of coffee creamer when I went to make coffee. I thought, oh shit! Now first I got to see kids being killed by Israel. Now I got to drink a black coffee. I'm going to have the runs for 3 hours because I don't have any creamer in the coffee. It's too much acid in the stomach, and nothing's going my way today. That's exactly the word that comes to my mind. Grumpy.
Yeah, well, that was Max Weber. Wasn't that one of his main books of sociology, Genocide and Grumpiness?
Genocide and Grumpiness, yeah.
Yeah. And he showed how you have a genocide, people get very grumpy.
You're grumpy because of the war in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's a seminal work of sociology.
Wow, grumpy.
the rubber hits the road and they have to choose between voting for Joe Biden and Democrats or cuckoo bird Republicans who are constantly fabricating and manufacturing culture wars. So are you going to vote for the actual.
The Democrats are manufacturing actual wars. You talk about the Republicans are manufacturing culture wars, which they don't uniquely manufacture culture wars.
Yeah. Oh, the Democrats never manufacture culture wars. The Kenty Cloth Party, they don't do culture wars.
I'll
they
take
don't
a
traffic in
manufactured
that.
culture war over a manufactured world war any day.
War.
Personally.
Yeah. Northrop Grumman doesn't make any money off those.
Yeah, manufacturing culture wars.
Outrage that is taking away choice from women, or are you going to vote for the manufactured outrage against Mickey Mouse and drag queens?
Yeah, and we'll see. Well, we have to leave it there, but we'll see how that ends up. I agree with you. Polls are polls, votes are votes, which is a totally different thing. Anna and Molly, thank you both very much.
Okay, so if we're going to have Cruella DeVille and Anna Navarro, we need someone with fashion model looks who's just a little brighter.
Right. Yeah. It's quite the reaction, quite the panel there.
Not too much brighter, just a little brighter.
Yes, indeed.
Please clap.